My beloved child, before we begin this essential conversation that will transform how you view every relationship in your life, I want you to pause and subscribe to this channel. What I'm about to reveal to you about the people in your life, about discerning divine connections from dangerous distractions, about recognizing who is sent by heaven versus who is sent to hinder you. This wisdom will protect your heart, preserve your purpose, and guide you toward the authentic relationships I have designed for your blessing. You'll want to return to these words whenever you feel confused about someone's role in your life. Now, create sacred space around this moment. Silence every distraction, and prepare your heart to receive truth that will set you free from relationships that drain your life and guide you toward connections that enhance your destiny. Not everyone around you is sent by me. These words flow from a heart of infinite love that sees every person who enters your life, every relationship that develops around you, every connection that seems significant to you. I speak this truth not to make you suspicious or fearful, but to give you the discernment you need to recognize the difference between divine appointments and enemy assignments, between heaven-sent helpers and hell-sent hinderers, between relationships that will bless your future and connections that will burden your progress. You have a beautiful heart that wants to see the best in people, that hopes for meaningful connections, that believes in the potential for every relationship to be significant and beneficial. This openness, this hope, this faith in people is part of what makes you precious to me. But your very goodness, your very kindness, your very desire to love and be loved can make you vulnerable to people who would exploit your heart, manipulate your generosity, and use your love for their own purposes. I see you wondering about certain people in your life, whether they're supposed to be there, whether their influence is positive or negative, whether their presence is helping or hindering your growth. You felt confusion about relationships that started well but became complicated. You've experienced disappointment in connections that promised much but delivered little. You've questioned your own judgment about people who seemed right but proved wrong for your life. Some of the people around you are indeed sent by me, beautiful souls assigned to love you, support you, encourage you, challenge you to grow, speak truth into your life, and walk alongside you on your journey toward your destiny. These divine connections bring out the best in you, celebrate your growth, support your dreams, respect your boundaries, and honor your relationship with me. They add value to your life rather than drain energy from it. But others, and this is what I need you to understand, are not sent by me at all. They may appear in your life through coincidence, through their own agenda, through the enemy's strategy to distract or destroy you, or through circumstances that have nothing to do with my purposes for your relationships. Some people enter your life not to bless you, but to use you, not to serve your growth, but to stunt it, not to support your calling, but to sabotage it. The people not sent by me might seem spiritual, might quote scripture, might speak religious language, might even claim to be following my leading and connecting with you. They might appear generous, caring, supportive, and interested in your well-being. They might offer help, provide opportunities, or promise benefits that seem like answers to your prayers. But beneath the surface, their motivations are not aligned with my heart for you. These individuals often target your areas of need, vulnerability, or desire. If you're lonely, they offer companionship that comes with strings attached. If you're struggling financially, they present opportunities that require ethical compromises. If you're seeking purpose, they provide platforms that serve their agenda rather than your calling. If you're craving recognition, they offer attention that creates unhealthy dependency. I'm sharing this truth with you not to make you paranoid about people or suspicious of every new relationship. I'm revealing this because I love you too much to watch you invest your precious time, energy, and heart in connections that will ultimately drain your life force and delay your destiny. I want you to be wise as serpents and harmless as doves, discerning as eagles and gentle as lambs. The enemy of your soul studies you carefully. He observes your patterns, your needs, your dreams, your weaknesses, and your strengths. Then, he strategically places people in your path who are designed to appeal to your specific vulnerabilities and desires. These individuals may not even know they're being used as instruments of distraction or destruction. They may sincerely believe they're trying to help you. But the fruit of their presence in your life tells the true story. Do they encourage your relationship with me or compete with it? Do they support your authentic calling or try to redirect it? Do they celebrate your growth or feel threatened by it? Do they respect your boundaries or consistently violate them? Do they speak life over your dreams or subtly discourage your aspirations? Not everyone who claims to love you actually loves you. Not everyone who says they want to help you actually wants what's best for you. Not everyone who appears spiritual is actually walking in my spirit. Not everyone who uses my name is actually representing my heart. Not everyone who seems like a blessing is actually a blessing in disguise. I see the confusion this creates in your tender heart. You want to love people well, to give them the benefit of the doubt, to believe in their good intentions, to hope for the best in every relationship. These are beautiful qualities that reflect my heart, and I don't want you to lose them. But I also want you to develop the discernment to protect these precious qualities from those who would abuse them. The people I send into your life will always honor your relationship with me, even if they challenge you to grow. They will support your authentic calling, even if they push you toward excellence. They will respect your boundaries, even if they encourage you to expand them wisely. They will celebrate your success, even if it exceeds their own. They will love you for who you are, while believing in who you're becoming. Today, I'm calling you to examine the relationships in your life with new eyes, with spiritual discernment, with wisdom that comes from my heart. Not everyone around you is sent by me, but those who are will be evident by their fruit, their character, and their impact on your life and your relationship with me. My precious child, I need to teach you the profound difference between divine appointments and enemy assignments, between the people I strategically place in your life for your blessing and growth, and the individuals the enemy strategically positions to create confusion, distraction, and destruction in your journey. Understanding this difference will revolutionize how you approach relationships and protect you from investing your heart in connections that were never meant to flourish. Divine appointments are relationships that I orchestrate with perfect timing, perfect purpose, and perfect love. These connections happen when you need them most, in ways that seem too perfectly aligned to be coincidence. The people I send into your life arrive equipped with exactly what you need, whether that's wisdom for your current challenge, encouragement for your current struggle, resources for your current need, or simply love for your current season. When I arrange a divine appointment, there's usually an immediate sense of connection, understanding, or resonance that feels natural and peaceful. You find yourself able to be authentic with this person without forcing it. Conversation flows easily, whether it's deep and meaningful or light and joyful. There's a sense of mutual respect, mutual benefit, and mutual growth that characterizes the relationship from its beginning. Divine appointments often come through unexpected circumstances, chance meetings, or seemingly random encounters that later prove to be perfectly timed interventions in your life. The person might sit next to you on a plane and share exactly the insight you needed to hear. They might be introduced to you at just the moment when their skills perfectly complement a project you're working on. They might appear in your life when you're facing a decision they have experience navigating. But enemy assignments are different. These are strategic placements designed to hinder your progress, confuse your direction, drain your energy, or delay your destiny. The enemy studies your vulnerabilities, your needs, your desires, and your patterns, then positions people who seem to meet those needs but actually exploit them for destructive purposes. Enemy assignments often begin with something that feels too good to be true because it usually is. The person might offer you exactly what you've been hoping for, but with subtle strings attached that become evident only after you're emotionally invested. They might provide immediate solutions to your problems while creating bigger problems in other areas of your life. These strategically placed individuals often target your areas of greatest need or deepest insecurity. If you struggle with loneliness, they offer intense connection that becomes possessive. If you battle financial stress, they present opportunities that require ethical compromise. If you question your worth, they provide validation that creates unhealthy dependency. If you crave purpose, they offer assignments that serve their agenda rather than your calling. Enemy assignments frequently involve people who seem spiritual on the surface, but demonstrate unspiritual character underneath. They might quote scripture but violate its principles. They might speak of love but practice manipulation. They might claim divine leading but show selfish motivation. They might present themselves as servants but function as controllers. One key difference between divine appointments and enemy assignments is the impact on your relationship with me. People I send will always encourage, support, and strengthen your connection to me, even if they challenge you to grow deeper. But enemy assignments will subtly or obviously interfere with your spiritual life, competing for time you should spend with me, creating drama that distracts from prayer, or promoting philosophies that contradict my word. Divine appointments enhance your peace, while enemy assignments disturb it. People I send might challenge you, stretch you, or even correct you, but they do so in ways that ultimately increase your inner peace and confidence. Enemy assignments create chronic anxiety, confusion, or emotional turmoil that persists even when surface issues seem resolved. The people I send respect your boundaries and actually help you establish healthy ones if you've struggled in that area. Enemy assignments consistently push against your boundaries, make you feel guilty for having them, or gradually erode them until you're more vulnerable than when the relationship began. Divine appointments are characterized by mutual growth and benefit. Both people in the relationship give and receive, serve and are served, bless and are blessed. Enemy assignments are typically one-sided, with you giving significantly more than you receive, serving more than you're served, blessing more than you're blessed. People I send will celebrate your successes genuinely and support your dreams authentically. Enemy assignments may appear to celebrate you, but actually feel threatened by your growth, or they may claim to support your dreams while subtly discouraging your pursuit of them. Divine appointments often involve people who have character qualities you admire and want to develop, who model behaviors you want to learn, or who demonstrate faith you want to emulate. Enemy assignments typically involve people whose character you wouldn't want to imitate, whose behaviors you wouldn't want to adopt, or whose spiritual life you wouldn't want to replicate. The timing of divine appointments usually makes sense in the context of your spiritual journey and life circumstances. The connection feels right not just emotionally, but also practically and spiritually. Enemy assignments often have timing that feels forced, urgent, or inconvenient to your actual spiritual and practical needs. Another distinction is that divine appointments enhance your other healthy relationships, while enemy assignments tend to isolate you from them. People I send understand that you have other important connections and support those relationships. Enemy assignments often create conflict with your family, friends, or spiritual community, making you feel like you have to choose between them and your other relationships. The fruit of divine appointments is lasting positive change in your life. Increased wisdom, stronger character, deeper faith, better boundaries, clearer purpose, or more authentic relationships. The fruit of enemy assignments is confusion, exhaustion, compromised values, weakened boundaries, unclear direction, or damaged relationships. Ask yourself about the relationships in your life. Do they increase my peace or disturb it? Do they strengthen my relationship with God or interfere with it? Do they respect my boundaries or consistently violate them? Do they celebrate my growth or feel threatened by it? Do they enhance my other relationships or create conflict with them? The answers will help you distinguish between divine appointments and enemy assignments. My beloved child, I want to teach you one of the most reliable ways to discern whether someone in your life is sent by me or positioned by the enemy, by examining the fruit of their presence in your life. Just as you can identify a tree by the fruit it produces, you can identify the true nature and purpose of relationships by observing what they produce in your spirit, your character, your faith, and your overall well-being. When I send someone into your life, their presence produces good fruit that is evident over time. This fruit might not be immediately apparent. Relationships I orchestrate often require time to develop and mature. But the trajectory is consistently toward growth, health, and blessing. The fruit of divine connections includes increased peace, deeper joy, stronger faith, clearer purpose, better boundaries, and more authentic love. People I send into your life will produce the fruit of spiritual growth in you. Their influence, their example, their encouragement, or their challenge will draw you closer to me rather than pulling you away. They might stretch your faith, challenge your thinking, or push you out of your comfort zone, but always in directions that ultimately strengthen your relationship with me and increase your spiritual maturity. The fruit of divine relationships includes emotional health and stability. While these relationships might involve occasional challenges or conflicts, because all human relationships do, the overall impact is toward greater emotional wholeness, increased self-awareness, and improved emotional regulation. These people help you become more emotionally mature, not less stable. When someone is sent by me, their presence produces the fruit of clarity rather than confusion. They might help you see things differently or challenge your perspectives, but the end result is greater clarity about my will, your calling, your values, and your direction. Divine relationships illuminate truth rather than obscure it, simplify rather than complicate, clarify rather than confuse. The fruit of relationships I ordain includes increased confidence in your identity and calling. These people see who I created you to be and encourage you to become that person more fully. They celebrate your unique gifts, support your authentic dreams, and help you develop confidence in the calling I've placed on your life. They make you more yourself, not less yourself. People I send will produce the fruit of healthy boundaries in your life. They respect the limits you set and actually help you establish better boundaries if you've struggled in that area. Their presence teaches you what healthy relationship dynamics look like and empowers you to require those dynamics in other relationships as well. But when someone is positioned by the enemy, whether they know it or not, their presence produces different fruit. The fruit of enemy assignments includes chronic confusion about spiritual matters, relationship problems, personal identity, or life direction. These individuals create fog rather than clarity, complications rather than simplicity. Enemy assignments often produce the fruit of emotional instability. You find yourself more anxious, more depressed, more confused, or more emotionally reactive when you're around them, or after you've spent time with them. They seem to drain your emotional energy rather than restore it, create drama rather than peace, generate stress rather than comfort. The fruit of relationships not ordained by me includes decreased confidence in yourself, your abilities, your calling, or your worth. These people might seem supportive on the surface, but their influence gradually erodes your self-assurance, makes you question your perceptions, or causes you to doubt what you once knew clearly about yourself and your purpose. When someone is not sent by me, their presence often produces isolation from other healthy relationships. They create conflict between you and your family, your friends, your spiritual community, or your mentors. They make you feel like you have to choose between them and the other important people in your life. This isolation serves the enemy's purposes by cutting you off from sources of wisdom, support, and accountability. Enemy assignments frequently produce the fruit of compromised values or weakened spiritual convictions. These people gradually influence you to lower your standards, bend your principles, or make exceptions to your values that you wouldn't normally make. The changes happen slowly, so you might not notice until significant erosion has occurred. The fruit of their presence might include increased focus on material things, decreased prayer life, less time in my word, reduced involvement in spiritual community, or weakened commitment to the calling I've placed on your life. Even if they seem spiritual, the overall impact of their influence pulls you away from deeper intimacy with me. People not sent by me often produce the fruit of exhaustion and energy depletion. You feel drained after spending time with them, exhausted by the demands of the relationship, or burdened by their constant needs or problems. Divine relationships might require energy investment, but they also provide energy return. Enemy assignments typically take more than they give. Another fruit of enemy assignments is the gradual erosion of your discernment and judgment. These people make you second-guess your instincts, question your perceptions, or doubt your ability to hear my voice clearly. They undermine your confidence in your own spiritual sensitivity and decision-making abilities. The fruit test is particularly reliable because it looks at long-term patterns rather than short-term experiences. Enemy assignments can produce temporary positive feelings or apparent benefits, but the long-term fruit reveals their true nature. Divine relationships might involve temporary challenges or difficulties, but the long-term fruit demonstrates their value. To apply the fruit test, ask yourself, since this person has been in my life, am I closer to God or further from Him? Am I more confident in my calling or more confused about it? Am I more emotionally stable or less stable? Am I more connected to other healthy relationships or more isolated? Am I more like the person God created me to be, or less like that person? The fruit of someone's presence in your life is one of the most reliable indicators of whether they're sent by heaven or positioned by the enemy. Trust what you observe over time rather than what you hope to see, or what seems apparent on the surface. The fruit will always reveal the root, and the root will always reveal the source. My precious child, there is a warning I must give you that pierces my heart, because I know how it will challenge your trusting nature and generous spirit. But my love for you compels me to speak truth that will protect you from those who present themselves as harmless sheep while harboring the predatory nature of wolves. These individuals are perhaps the most dangerous people you will encounter, because their deception is so carefully crafted, so convincingly presented, and so strategically executed. Wolves in sheep's clothing are people who deliberately disguise their true nature, their actual intentions, and their real character behind a facade of goodness, spirituality, kindness, or helpfulness. They study what appeals to you, what you value, what you need, and what you desire. Then they present themselves as the perfect answer to your longings while concealing motivations that are entirely self-serving or even destructive. These individuals are not simply flawed people making mistakes or struggling with their own issues, though they may use those explanations to justify their behavior. They are deliberate deceivers who consciously choose to manipulate others for their own benefit. They understand the difference between right and wrong, but choose wrong while presenting themselves as champions of right. The sheep's clothing these wolves wear often includes spiritual language, religious terminology, biblical references, or claims of divine calling. They might present themselves as prophets, teachers, pastors, spiritual advisors, or simply deeply spiritual people who have special insight, special anointing, or special relationships with me. They use spirituality as a tool of manipulation rather than as a genuine expression of faith. These wolves often target people who are in vulnerable seasons, those who are grieving, struggling financially, facing major decisions, experiencing transitions, or seeking spiritual growth. They position themselves as the answer to your prayers, the solution to your problems, the guide for your journey, or the companion for your struggles. They seem to appear at just the right time with just the right words. Wolves in sheep's clothing are master students of human nature. They observe your personality, your communication style, your values, your fears, and your desires. Then they mirror back to you exactly what you want to see, hear, and experience. They become whatever they need to be to gain your trust, your dependence, or your resources. The sheep's clothing might include apparent generosity, excessive flattery, immediate intimacy, or overwhelming attention. They love bomb you with affection, compliments, gifts, or promises that feel amazing, but are designed to create emotional dependency. They make you feel special, chosen, understood, and valued in ways you've never experienced before. These individuals often claim to see potential in you that others have missed, to understand you in ways others don't, or to have opportunities for you that others can't provide. They position themselves as your advocate, your champion, your supporter, or your gateway to breakthrough. They make you feel like you need them, and they need you in ways that seem mutual, but are actually manipulative. Wolves in sheep's clothing frequently use guilt, fear, or spiritual pressure to control behavior and maintain relationships. They might suggest that questioning them is questioning me, that leaving them is disobeying my will, that their influence is essential for your spiritual growth or success. They make you afraid of missing out on their input, their opportunities, or their approval. The wolf nature beneath the sheep's clothing reveals itself through patterns of behavior that contradict their spiritual claims. They might be controlling while claiming to be servants, manipulative while claiming to be helpers, selfish while claiming to be generous, dishonest while claiming to be truthful, or prideful while claiming to be humble. These individuals often have histories of damaged relationships, broken commitments, or failed responsibilities that they explain away as misunderstandings, persecution, or other people's problems. They position themselves as victims of others' jealousy, spiritual immaturity, or lack of understanding, rather than taking responsibility for their role in relational destruction. Wolves in sheep's clothing typically isolate their targets from other relationships that could provide perspective, wisdom, or protection. They create us versus them dynamics that make you feel like you must choose between them and your family, friends, church, or mentors. They suggest that others don't understand your relationship, don't see what they see in you, or are threatened by your growth. The predatory nature eventually emerges as they begin to make increasing demands on your time, energy, resources, or loyalty. What began as mutual benefit gradually becomes one-sided exploitation. What seemed like partnership evolves into servitude. What felt like love transforms into control. What appeared to be blessing reveals itself as bondage. These wolves often target multiple people simultaneously, maintaining similar relationships with others while making each person feel special and unique. They have perfected their techniques through practice and repetition. They know exactly what to say, when to say it, and how to present themselves to achieve maximum impact. The damage wolves in sheep's clothing create extends beyond immediate harm. They can shatter your ability to trust, undermine your confidence in your own discernment, and make you suspicious of genuine relationships. They can create spiritual confusion, emotional trauma, financial loss, or relational destruction that takes years to heal and restore. But I have given you tools to recognize these wolves before they can fully infiltrate your life. Watch for inconsistencies between their words and their actions, their claims and their character, their promises and their performance. Pay attention to how they treat people who can't benefit them, how they respond when challenged or questioned, and how they handle accountability or correction. Trust your spirit when something feels wrong, even if you can't logically explain why. I have placed spiritual alarm systems within you that alert you to danger, even when that danger is disguised as safety. Don't override your spiritual discernment with your emotional desires or logical reasoning. Seek wise counsel from people who know you well, love you genuinely, and can observe the relationship objectively. Wolves in sheep's clothing hate outside input because it threatens their control and exposes their deception. If someone discourages you from seeking counsel or becomes angry when you do, consider that a red flag. Remember that genuine servants of mine will always encourage your relationship with me, support your authentic calling, respect your boundaries, celebrate your growth, and enhance your other healthy relationships. Anyone who undermines these areas of your life, regardless of how spiritual they appear, is not sent by me and should not be trusted with your heart, your resources, or your future. My beloved child, I want to help you understand something that will bring great clarity to your relationships and great peace to your heart. Not every person who enters your life is meant to stay forever. Some people are seasonal assignments, brought into your life for specific purposes, specific lessons, or specific periods of growth. Others are lifetime assignments, souls I've connected to yours for the long journey, meant to walk with you through multiple seasons, multiple challenges, and multiple victories. Understanding this difference will free you from the pressure of trying to make every relationship permanent, and the guilt of recognizing when some relationships have fulfilled their purpose and are meant to conclude. It will also help you recognize and treasure the rare, precious souls who are assigned to your entire journey, rather than just portions of it. Seasonal people are brought into your life for specific reasons during specific seasons. They might appear to teach you particular lessons, to help you through specific challenges, to provide certain resources or opportunities, or to prepare you for what's coming next in your journey. These relationships have beautiful purpose, significant value, and meaningful impact, but they are designed to be temporary. Some seasonal people come to heal you from past wounds, showing you what healthy love looks like after you've experienced damage. Others come to challenge you to grow beyond current limitations, pushing you toward breakthrough you wouldn't pursue without their influence. Still others arrive to provide practical help during difficult times, offering resources, skills, or support you need for particular seasons. Seasonal assignments might include mentors who guide you through specific phases of development, friends who share particular seasons of life, colleagues who collaborate with you on specific projects, or even romantic relationships that prepare your heart for the love that's meant to last lifetime. These connections are not less valuable because they're temporary. They're perfectly designed for their intended purpose and duration. The beauty of seasonal relationships is that they often accomplish their purpose efficiently and completely. Once the lesson is learned, the healing is received, the challenge is overcome, or the transition is navigated, the intensity of the connection naturally diminishes. This doesn't mean the relationship was false or failed. It means it was successful in accomplishing its divine purpose. Lifetime assignments, however, are different. These are souls I've connected to yours for the duration of your earthly journey. These relationships are designed to weather multiple seasons, survive various challenges, and grow deeper through time and experience. They include parents and children, marriage partners, closest friends, and occasionally mentors or spiritual family members who remain constants throughout your life. Lifetime assignments are characterized by their ability to adapt, grow, and evolve as you change and develop. These relationships don't become stagnant or outgrown because they possess the flexibility and depth necessary to accommodate your growth while growing themselves. They bend without breaking, stretch without snapping, and deepen rather than diminish through time. The people assigned to your lifetime journey will demonstrate consistent character over time. While they may grow and change in healthy ways, their core character qualities, their love, integrity, faithfulness, and commitment, remain stable and reliable. You can depend on these individuals because their assignment to your life is long-term, and their investment in your well-being is permanent. Lifetime assignments often involve relationships that serve multiple purposes throughout your journey. The same person might be teacher during one season, encourager during another, challenger during a third, and companion during a fourth. Their role in your life evolves as your needs change, but their presence remains constant. The challenge comes when you try to force seasonal people into lifetime roles, or when you fail to recognize and honor the lifetime people already in your life. Sometimes you might cling to seasonal relationships beyond their intended duration, creating strain and dissatisfaction for both parties. Other times you might take lifetime relationships for granted while pursuing seasonal connections with inappropriate intensity. Seasonal people who try to extend their assignment beyond its intended duration often become sources of confusion, conflict, or stagnation. What once felt natural and beneficial begins to feel forced and burdensome. The relationship that once contributed to your growth begins to hinder it. The connection that once brought life begins to drain energy. Similarly, when you attempt to make lifetime commitments to people who are meant for seasonal assignments, you often experience disappointment, frustration, or heartbreak when they naturally begin to distance themselves or when the relationship fails to develop the depth you expected. Their inability to provide lifetime connection isn't failure, it's fulfillment of their actual assignment. The key to navigating both seasonal and lifetime relationships is discernment, gratitude, and appropriate investment. Appreciate seasonal people for what they're meant to provide, without demanding what they're not designed to give. Treasure lifetime people for their constancy, without taking their presence for granted. Invest appropriately in each type of relationship according to its nature and purpose. Some signs that someone might be a seasonal assignment include: the relationship developed quickly and intensely around specific circumstances. Their primary value to your life relates to particular areas or issues. The connection feels less natural when those specific circumstances change. They seem less interested in your overall life and more focused on specific aspects of it. Signs of lifetime assignments include: the relationship developed gradually and has deepened over time. They're interested in your whole life, not just specific aspects. They've remained consistent through multiple seasons and changes. They invest in your growth even when it doesn't directly benefit them. They celebrate your successes and support you through failures. They adapt to your growth rather than being threatened by it. Both seasonal and lifetime relationships are gifts from my heart to yours. Neither is superior to the other. They simply serve different purposes in your journey. Honor each for its intended function. Release seasonal people with gratitude when their assignment is complete. Treasure lifetime people with consistency throughout your journey. And always remember that I am the ultimate lifetime assignment, the one relationship that never changes, never ends, and never fails to provide exactly what you need for every season of your life. My precious child, it breaks my heart to tell you about people who will enter your life not with intentions to love, support, or bless you, but with calculated plans to use you for their own purposes. These individuals see you not as a person created in my image with inherent worth and dignity, but as a resource to be exploited, a tool to be utilized, or an opportunity to be seized for their personal gain. These users are different from seasonal people, who might benefit from your relationship while also blessing you in return. Users are individuals who approach relationships with entirely selfish motivations, seeking what they can extract rather than what they can contribute. They study you not to understand and love you better, but to discover how they can benefit from knowing you. Users often present themselves as people in need, as individuals facing crises, or as those seeking help during difficult times. They appeal to your compassionate heart, your desire to serve others, and your willingness to sacrifice for those you care about. They position themselves as victims of circumstances, relationships, or systems that have treated them unfairly, hoping to trigger your rescuer instincts. The appeal these individuals make to your helping heart can be very compelling, because my spirit within you genuinely desires to help those who are struggling. They might share sob stories that move you to compassion, present urgent needs that motivate you to action, or describe dreams that inspire you to support them. Your beautiful desire to be a blessing can make you vulnerable to those who would abuse that generosity. Users are skilled at identifying what you have that they want or need. It might be your money, your connections, your skills, your platform, your influence, your emotional support, your physical assistance, or even your spiritual gifts. Once they've identified what they want from you, they develop strategies to position themselves to receive it while giving as little as possible in return. These individuals often begin relationships with what appears to be mutuality. They offer something that seems valuable to you while seeking what they actually want from you. But over time, the relationship becomes increasingly one-sided as they request more while providing less. They gradually shift from offering exchange to expecting charity, from providing mutual benefit to demanding unilateral support. Users frequently employ manipulation tactics to maintain access to what they want from you. They might use guilt, suggesting that not helping them would be unloving or unspiritual. They might use fear, warning of dire consequences if you don't provide what they're requesting. They might use flattery, making you feel special for being able to help when others couldn't or wouldn't. The spiritual manipulation is particularly insidious. Users might claim that helping them is my will for your life, that their requests come from divine leading, or that supporting them is essential for your own spiritual growth or blessing. They position themselves as tests of your faithfulness, opportunities for your obedience, or channels for your generosity. Users often have histories of similar relationships where they've extracted what they needed and then moved on to new sources. They might speak negatively about previous helpers who let them down, didn't understand their vision, or weren't really committed to their success. What they describe as others' failures are often actually examples of people who recognize the user's true nature and established boundaries. These individuals typically resist accountability, responsibility, or expectations of reciprocity. When you attempt to set boundaries or suggest mutual exchange, they respond with surprise, hurt, or anger. They make you feel selfish for expecting anything in return or unreasonable for setting limits on what you're willing to give or do. Users often create artificial urgency around their requests, pressuring you to respond quickly without time for prayer, reflection, or seeking counsel. They present their needs as emergencies that require immediate response, preventing you from carefully considering whether helping them aligns with my will for your resources and energy. The damage users create extends beyond the immediate loss of whatever they extract from you. They can exhaust your emotional energy, deplete your financial resources, damage your other relationships, and most destructively, make you cynical about helping others in the future. Their abuse of your generosity can harden your heart against genuine needs and legitimate requests for help. Users also steal opportunities from people who genuinely need and deserve your help. While you're investing in someone who is manipulating your kindness, you might miss chances to bless individuals who would receive your help with gratitude, use it responsibly, and benefit from it genuinely. But I want you to understand that my desire for you to be generous, helpful, and compassionate doesn't mean you should allow yourself to be used or abused. True love includes wisdom about how to love well. Genuine compassion includes discernment about how to help effectively. Authentic generosity includes boundaries about how to give wisely. The difference between helping someone and being used by someone often lies in the relationship dynamic. Helping involves mutual respect, genuine gratitude, responsible stewardship of what's provided, and recognition that your assistance is a gift, not an entitlement. Being used involves demands, manipulation, irresponsible handling of resources, and treating your generosity as obligation. When evaluating requests for help, ask yourself, is this person taking responsibility for their own life and circumstances? Are they asking for help to enable growth or to avoid consequences? Do they show genuine gratitude for assistance provided? Are they using resources wisely and working towards self-sufficiency? Do they respect boundaries and understand that help is a gift, not a right? My heart desires for you to be a blessing to others, but not to enable destructive behavior or allow yourself to be exploited. True love sometimes says no. Genuine compassion sometimes establishes boundaries. Authentic generosity sometimes requires accountability. Don't let users convince you that protecting yourself from exploitation is unloving. It's actually wisdom that protects your ability to help those who genuinely need and deserve assistance. My beloved child, I must warn you about a particular type of person who may enter your life and slowly, subtly, but systematically drain your emotional energy, spiritual vitality, and mental clarity. These individuals, often called energy vampires or emotional drains, may not have malicious intentions, but their presence in your life consistently leaves you feeling exhausted, depleted, and emotionally overwhelmed rather than refreshed, encouraged, and energized. Energy vampires are people who, whether consciously or unconsciously, feed off the emotional energy of others to sustain themselves. They approach relationships with an insatiable need for attention, sympathy, validation, or support. But they lack the ability or willingness to reciprocate or to develop their own emotional resilience and spiritual strength. Every interaction with them requires you to give more than you receive. These individuals often present themselves as people in constant crisis, perpetual struggle, or ongoing emotional turmoil. Their lives seem to lurch from one emergency to another, from one drama to the next, from one overwhelming situation to yet another crisis that demands immediate attention and support. They become addicted to the energy others provide during these crises. Energy vampires have perfected the art of making their problems your emotional responsibility. They share their struggles in ways that make you feel obligated to fix, solve, or emotionally carry their burdens. They may not explicitly ask you to take responsibility for their problems, but they present their situations in ways that trigger your helper instincts and sense of compassion. The conversations you have with energy vampires typically revolve around their problems, their feelings, their needs, and their struggles. They show little genuine interest in your life, your challenges, your victories, or your emotional needs. When you attempt to share what's happening in your life, they quickly redirect the conversation back to themselves or minimize your experiences compared to their own. These individuals often lack healthy coping mechanisms, emotional regulation skills, or spiritual resources to handle normal life challenges. Instead of developing these capacities within themselves, they rely on others to provide emotional stability, spiritual strength, and mental clarity. They become dependent on external sources for what should be internal resources. Energy vampires frequently employ emotional manipulation to maintain access to your energy. They might use guilt, making you feel responsible for their emotional state, or suggesting that not helping them is selfish or unloving. They might use pity, presenting themselves as victims who have no other support. They might use fear, describing catastrophic consequences if you don't provide the emotional support they're seeking. The impact of these relationships on your life is gradual but significant. You find yourself dreading their calls, avoiding their messages, or feeling exhausted after spending time with them. You may notice that your own emotional stability, spiritual peace, or mental clarity suffers when you're regularly interacting with energy vampires. These individuals often have poor boundaries and don't recognize or respect yours. They may call or text at inappropriate times, share intimate details of their lives too quickly, or expect immediate responses to their communications. They treat your emotional availability as their entitlement, rather than recognizing it as a gift you choose to give. Energy vampires typically resist suggestions for practical solutions to their problems, professional help for their emotional struggles, or spiritual disciplines that could strengthen their inner life. They prefer the temporary relief that comes from emotional support rather than the lasting transformation that comes from addressing root issues in their lives. The spiritual dimension of these relationships is particularly concerning. Energy vampires often drain your spiritual vitality, leaving you too exhausted to pray, study my word, or engage in spiritual community. They create so much emotional noise in your life that it becomes difficult to hear my voice or sense my presence clearly. These individuals may not be evil or malicious, but their impact on your life can be destructive. They can rob you of the emotional energy you need for your own growth, your calling, your family, and your authentic relationships. They can steal time and attention that should be invested in relationships that provide mutual growth and blessing. The challenge with energy vampires is that they often appeal to your spiritual values of compassion, service, and love for others in need. They make you feel that establishing boundaries or limiting their access to your emotional energy is unloving, selfish, or unspiritual. They use your own values against you to maintain access to what they need from you. But I want you to understand that emotional energy is a finite resource that must be stewarded wisely. Just as you wouldn't give all your money to one person, and leave nothing for your family or other responsibilities. You shouldn't give all your emotional energy to one person and leave nothing for other important relationships and responsibilities. Healthy relationships involve give and take, mutual support, shared responsibility for emotional well-being, and respect for each other's emotional boundaries. Relationships with energy vampires involve one-sided giving, unilateral support, and violation of healthy emotional boundaries. Setting boundaries with energy vampires isn't unloving. It's necessary for your emotional health and spiritual vitality. This might include limiting the frequency or duration of conversations, refusing to take responsibility for their emotional state, redirecting them to appropriate professional help, or in some cases, ending the relationship entirely. I designed you to be a blessing to others, but not to be consumed by others. Your emotional and spiritual energy are gifts to be shared wisely, not resources to be depleted carelessly. Protect these precious resources so you can use them effectively for your calling, your growth, and the relationships I've truly assigned to your life. My precious child, I need to reveal to you one of the most deceptive and damaging types of people you may encounter. Those who seek to control you while presenting their control as care, their dominance as devotion, and their manipulation as love. These individuals are particularly dangerous because they wrap their desire for power over your life in language and actions that seem loving, protective, and beneficial to your well-being. Controllers often enter your life during vulnerable seasons when you genuinely need guidance, support, or care. They position themselves as the solution to your problems, the answer to your needs, or the guidance you're seeking. They appear strong when you feel weak, confident when you feel uncertain, and knowledgeable when you feel confused. Their initial help and support can feel like exactly what you need. The care that controllers offer often begins authentically and can provide real benefit during difficult times. They might offer practical help, emotional support, wise counsel, or spiritual guidance that genuinely assists you through challenges. This authentic care in the beginning makes it difficult to recognize when their motivation shifts from serving your needs to serving their desire for control. Controllers study your vulnerabilities, your needs, your fears, and your desires so they can position themselves as indispensable to your well-being. They make themselves essential to your decision-making process, your emotional stability, your spiritual growth, or your practical needs. Gradually, you find yourself depending on them for things you used to handle independently. The transition from helper to controller is usually so gradual that you don't notice it happening. What begins as occasional advice becomes constant input. What starts as helpful suggestions becomes controlling demands. What feels like loving concern becomes possessive oversight. What appears to be protective care becomes restrictive dominance. Controllers often use spiritual language to justify their dominance over your life. They might claim to have received revelation about your life that you haven't received yourself. They might suggest that questioning their authority is the same as questioning my will. They might position themselves as spiritual parents, mentors, or authorities who know better than you do what I want for your life. These individuals frequently employ fear to maintain control, warning you about the dangers of making decisions without their input, the consequences of going against their advice, or the risks of trusting your own judgment. They make you afraid of the very independence and discernment that I want to develop in you. Controllers often isolate you from other sources of wisdom, support, or perspective. They create doubt about your family's understanding of your situation, your friend's ability to give good advice, or your previous mentor's relevance to your current needs. They want to be your primary or only source of guidance, so their control remains unchallenged. The love that controllers offer is conditional and manipulative. They provide care, attention, and support when you comply with their wishes, but they withdraw or threaten to withdraw these things when you assert independence or make decisions they disagree with. Their love becomes a tool of control rather than an expression of genuine care. Controllers frequently violate boundaries while claiming to care about your well-being. They might read your personal communications, make decisions for you without permission, or involve themselves in areas of your life where they haven't been invited. When confronted about these violations, they explain them as expressions of love or concern, rather than acknowledging them as controlling behavior. These individuals often have difficulty celebrating your growth, success, or independence, because these things threaten their control over your life. They might subtly discourage your achievements, question your capabilities, or create problems that require their intervention just when you're beginning to feel confident and independent. The spiritual manipulation controllers use is particularly damaging because it can create confusion about my voice, my will, and my character. They might claim to speak for me, to represent my interests, or to understand my plans for your life better than you do. They position themselves as mediators between you and me, rather than encouraging direct relationship. Controllers often have histories of similar relationships where they've exercised dominance over others. They might describe these previous relationships as instances where they helped people who weren't grateful, supported individuals who didn't appreciate their guidance, or invested in people who eventually turned against them. What they describe as others' ingratitude is often actually others' recognition of unhealthy control. The damage controllers create can be lasting and profound. They can undermine your confidence in your own judgment, your ability to hear my voice directly, your capacity for independent decision-making, and your trust in your own perceptions and feelings. They can create spiritual confusion that affects your relationship with me for years. But I want you to understand that my desire is for you to grow in independence, discernment, and direct relationship with me. While I may use others to speak wisdom into your life, I never want you to become dependent on any human being for your spiritual guidance, emotional stability, or life direction. My design is for you to develop your own capacity to hear my voice, make wise decisions, and navigate life's challenges. Healthy spiritual mentorship empowers you to grow in your own relationship with me rather than creating dependency on the mentor. Genuine care seeks your best interests even when those interests conflict with the caregiver's preferences. Authentic love supports your growth toward independence rather than fostering dependence. When someone's care feels controlling, when their guidance feels manipulative, when their love feels conditional, when their help creates dependency rather than empowerment, you're likely dealing with a controller rather than a genuine helper. Trust your instincts, seek outside perspective, and remember that my love for you never seeks to diminish your capacity for direct relationship with me. My beloved child, I must warn you about some of the most dangerous people you may encounter. Those who claim to speak for me but actually speak from their own hearts, their own agendas, or even from the enemy's deception. These false prophets and spiritual counterfeits are particularly treacherous because they use my name, claim my authority, and appear to operate in spiritual power while leading people away from truth, away from freedom, and away from authentic relationship with me. False prophets often appear more spiritual, more anointed, and more connected to the supernatural than many genuine servants. They may demonstrate impressive spiritual gifts, speak with apparent authority, and even experience supernatural phenomena that seem to confirm their authenticity. The enemy can mimic spiritual gifts and create counterfeit supernatural experiences that appear genuine to those who lack deep spiritual discernment. These individuals typically target people who are hungry for deeper spiritual experience, seeking divine direction, or going through seasons of uncertainty where they desperately want to hear from me. They position themselves as having special access to my voice, unique revelation about your life, or exclusive understanding of my plans and purposes. They make you feel that you need their spiritual insights to properly understand my will. False prophets often begin with accurate insights or revelations that seem to confirm their spiritual authenticity. They might share information about your past that they couldn't naturally know, describe your current struggles with surprising accuracy, or offer encouragement that feels like it comes directly from my heart. These initial accurate experiences create trust that makes you more receptive to their later, less accurate guidance. The spiritual counterfeit gradually reveals itself through patterns that contradict my character and my ways. False prophets often claim exclusive access to truth, suggesting that they have revelation others don't have, or that they understand my will in ways others don't. They position themselves as necessary intermediaries between you and me, rather than pointing you toward direct relationship. These individuals frequently focus more on predicting future events than on building character, more on supernatural experiences than on spiritual fruit, more on special revelations than on biblical truth. They may emphasize dramatic prophecies, exciting predictions, or supernatural encounters while neglecting the fundamental spiritual disciplines that actually produce spiritual maturity. False prophets often demand payment for their spiritual services, selling prophecies, charging for spiritual guidance, or requiring financial support as evidence of your faith in their ministry. While legitimate spiritual leaders deserve financial support, those who commercialize prophecy or make spiritual insight contingent on payment are operating from wrong motives. The messages from spiritual counterfeits often contradict my written word, bypass the wisdom of spiritual community, or encourage decisions that violate biblical principles. They might give you special revelation that contradicts clear scriptural teaching, or encourage you to ignore the counsel of mature spiritual leaders in favor of their unique insights. These false prophets frequently create dependency rather than promoting spiritual growth. Instead of teaching you to hear my voice directly, they make you dependent on their interpretive abilities. Instead of encouraging you to study my word for yourself, they position themselves as having superior understanding. Instead of pointing you to me, they point you to themselves. False prophets often produce confusion rather than clarity, anxiety rather than peace, division rather than unity. Their messages may sound spiritual but leave you feeling unsettled, uncertain, or conflicted. True spiritual guidance from me brings peace even when it challenges you to grow or change direction. The fruit of false prophecy is often pride rather than humility, independence from spiritual community rather than connection to it, and focus on self rather than service to others. False prophets tend to emphasize your special calling, your unique anointing, or your superior spiritual status rather than encouraging servant-heartedness and humble devotion. These spiritual counterfeits frequently resist accountability, correction, or questions about their accuracy or methods. They may become defensive when challenged, angry when questioned, or dismissive when their predictions don't come to pass. Genuine spiritual leaders welcome accountability and admit when they've made mistakes. False prophets often prey on people's desire for hope, significance, or special status. They tell people what they want to hear rather than what they need to hear. They promise easy solutions to difficult problems, quick fixes for long-term issues, or supernatural shortcuts to spiritual maturity. The personal lives of spiritual counterfeits often contradict their public spiritual personas. They may demonstrate character flaws, broken relationships, financial impropriety, or lifestyle choices that contradict the spiritual authority they claim. Their private behavior reveals their true spiritual condition. But I have given you ways to test spiritual input and distinguish between authentic and counterfeit spiritual leadership. Test every spiritual message against my written word. No genuine revelation from me will contradict biblical truth. Seek confirmation through multiple spiritual sources. Examine the fruit of their ministry in their own lives and in the lives of those they influence. Look for humility rather than pride, accountability rather than independence, and focus on my glory rather than their significance. Genuine spiritual leaders point people to me, encourage direct relationship with me, and build character that reflects my nature. When someone claims to have special revelation for your life, take time to pray, study my word, and seek counsel from mature spiritual leaders you trust. Don't make major life decisions based solely on someone else's spiritual insights, no matter how impressive they seem. I want you to grow in your own ability to hear my voice and discern my will. Remember that my sheep know my voice. As you spend time with me, study my word, and develop intimacy with my heart, You'll become increasingly able to distinguish between my voice and counterfeit voices that claim to speak for me. Trust the discernment I'm developing in you, and don't surrender your spiritual responsibility to anyone who claims superior spiritual authority. My precious child, this may be one of the most difficult truths I have to share with you, but sometimes the people closest to you, your family members, your oldest friends, your most familiar relationships, can become obstacles to your spiritual growth, your calling, and the purposes I have for your life. This doesn't mean they're bad people, or that they don't love you, but it does mean that not everyone who claims to care about you is equipped to support where I'm taking you. Family and friends who become obstacles often do so from a place of genuine concern and love, but their concern is filtered through their own fears, limitations, understanding, and comfort zones. They may try to protect you from what they perceive as risks, mistakes, or unrealistic pursuits, not realizing that what they see as dangerous might be exactly where I'm leading you for your growth and my purposes. These well-meaning loved ones might discourage your dreams because they seem too big, too risky, or too different from what your family has traditionally pursued. They may question your spiritual experiences because they don't understand them or haven't experienced them themselves. They might criticize your choices because those choices challenge their own comfort zones or highlight their own lack of growth. The obstruction often comes through subtle discouragement disguised as practical advice. They might say they're just being realistic when they point out all the ways your dreams could fail. They claim they're protecting you when they warn against taking risks or making changes. They insist they're looking out for your best interests when they encourage you to choose security over calling. Family members particularly can use emotional manipulation to keep you within the boundaries of their expectations and comfort. They might use guilt, suggesting that pursuing your calling is selfish or that it will hurt them. They might use fear, warning about all the terrible things that could happen if you step out of familiar territory. They might use shame, making you feel that your dreams are unrealistic or that your spiritual experiences are embarrassing. Sometimes family and friends become obstacles because your growth threatens their own comfort with the status quo. Your willingness to take risks might make them feel guilty about their own unwillingness to pursue growth. Your spiritual experiences might challenge their more conventional faith. Your success might trigger their own insecurities about their achievements or lack thereof. These loved ones often mean well when they try to keep you from changing, but their resistance to your growth can become a significant hindrance to fulfilling your destiny. They might sabotage your efforts subtly through lack of support, constant criticism, or creating drama that distracts you from your pursuits. They may withhold encouragement when you most need it, or celebrate your failures more than your successes. The spiritual dimension of this obstacle is particularly challenging. Family and friends might use scripture incorrectly to discourage your spiritual growth, misquote verses about honoring parents to manipulate your decisions, or suggest that your spiritual experiences are not from me, without having spiritual discernment themselves to make such judgments. Sometimes the obstacle comes through their attempts to keep you functioning in old roles that no longer fit who you're becoming. They want you to remain the person you were because that person felt safe and predictable to them. They resist the changes I'm making in you because those changes require them to adjust their expectations and relationship dynamics. The influence of familiar people can be particularly powerful because of the emotional bonds, shared history, and established patterns of interaction. You might find yourself reverting to old behaviors, old thinking patterns, or old limitations when you're around them, even when you've experienced significant growth in other environments. This doesn't mean you should automatically cut off all family relationships or end all old friendships. But it does mean you need wisdom about how to navigate these relationships in ways that honor your love for them while protecting your growth and calling. Some relationships can be maintained with healthy boundaries, while others may need to be limited or paused during certain seasons of your life. The key is recognizing when the influence of family and friends is holding you back from becoming who I'm calling you to be and accomplishing what I've assigned you to do. Their love for you, while genuine, might be limited by their own spiritual maturity, life experience, or willingness to embrace change and growth. Sometimes I will call you to choices that your family doesn't understand, paths that your friends wouldn't choose, or spiritual experiences that your loved ones can't relate to. Your obedience to me might require you to disappoint people whose approval you value, to make decisions they question, or to pursue directions they think are unwise. But remember that honoring your relationship with me is the highest form of love you can demonstrate, even when it's difficult for others to understand. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for your family and friends is to become the person I created you to be, even if that makes them uncomfortable initially. I may use your growth and obedience to eventually inspire their own spiritual development. What they resist initially, they may come to appreciate later when they see the fruit of your faithfulness. Your willingness to follow my leading despite their concerns might eventually encourage them to trust me more deeply in their own lives. Set healthy boundaries with loved ones who try to limit your growth. Seek supportive community with people who understand and encourage your spiritual journey. Don't allow family obligations or friendship expectations to prevent you from fulfilling the calling I've placed on your life. Love them well, but love me first and follow where I lead, trusting that this is ultimately best for everyone involved. My beloved child, as I warn you about people who are not sent by me and teach you to discern divine connections from dangerous relationships, I also want to emphasize the critical importance of surrounding yourself with authentic spiritual covering and accountability. These are the people I do send into your life: mature, wise, spiritually discerning individuals who can help protect you from deception and guide you toward truth. Spiritual covering is not about human authority over your relationship with me, but rather about having spiritually mature people in your life who can provide perspective, wisdom, and protection during seasons when you might be vulnerable to deception. These are individuals who know me deeply, understand my character and ways, and can help you discern when spiritual input is authentically from me versus when it might be from other sources. The people I assign as spiritual covering in your life will always encourage your direct relationship with me, while offering their wisdom and perspective as additional confirmation or clarification. They never position themselves as necessary intermediaries between you and me, but rather as supportive guides who can help you navigate spiritual questions and decisions with greater confidence and clarity. Authentic spiritual covering comes through people who demonstrate consistent spiritual fruit in their own lives: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Their character has been tested over time and proven reliable. Their wisdom has been developed through their own spiritual journey and relationship with me. Their discernment has been refined through experience and maturity. These individuals care more about your spiritual health and authentic relationship with me than about your agreement with their opinions or compliance with their preferences. They celebrate your spiritual growth even when it leads you in directions they might not choose for themselves. They support your calling even when it doesn't align with their vision for your life. Spiritual accountability involves having people in your life who love you enough to speak truth to you, even when that truth is difficult to hear. These are individuals who will lovingly confront sin, challenge unhealthy patterns, question questionable decisions, and encourage better choices. They provide this input from hearts of love rather than hearts of judgment or control. The accountability I desire for you creates safety rather than fear, freedom rather than bondage, growth rather than stagnation. People who provide authentic spiritual accountability make you feel safe to be honest about your struggles, your questions, and your failures. They respond to your vulnerabilities with grace and wisdom rather than with condemnation or rejection. These accountable relationships are characterized by mutuality. While they may have more experience or maturity in certain areas, they also recognize their own need for input, correction, and growth. They don't position themselves as superior to you spiritually, but rather as fellow travelers who happen to be further along the path in certain areas. Spiritual covering and accountability protect you from isolation, which is one of the enemy's primary strategies for leading people into deception. When you're connected to wise, mature spiritual leaders and peers, you have multiple sources of input when facing important decisions. You have people who can confirm when you're hearing correctly from me, and who can lovingly question when something doesn't seem right. These protective relationships also provide stability during seasons of spiritual testing or attack. When the enemy tries to create confusion about my voice, my character, or my will for your life, spiritually mature people can remind you of truth, point you back to my word, and help you regain clear perspective. The people I provide for spiritual covering and accountability will encourage you to study my word for yourself, develop your own prayer life, and grow in your personal relationship with me. They see their role as temporary guidance and support, while you develop the spiritual maturity to navigate life's challenges with greater independence and confidence. But I want to warn you that not everyone who claims to provide spiritual covering or accountability actually does so authentically. Some people use these concepts to justify controlling behavior, manipulative influence, or authoritarian leadership. True spiritual covering liberates rather than controls, empowers rather than diminishes, and builds confidence rather than creates dependency. Authentic spiritual accountability never uses shame, fear, or manipulation to motivate behavior change. It doesn't threaten rejection or abandonment if you don't comply with advice or correction. It doesn't create dependency on human approval or make you afraid to make decisions without constant consultation. The spiritual covering and accountability I desire for you will adapt as you grow and mature. What you need as a young believer is different from what you need as you develop spiritual maturity. The goal is always to help you grow in your capacity for direct relationship with me, wise decision-making, and spiritual discernment. Seek out relationships with spiritually mature individuals who demonstrate the fruit of walking closely with me. Look for people who encourage your spiritual growth while maintaining appropriate boundaries. Find mentors and advisors who point you to me rather than to themselves, who celebrate your progress rather than feeling threatened by it. Be willing to receive input, correction, and guidance from those I place in your life for this purpose, but always test their input against my word and my spirit within you. Don't surrender your responsibility for hearing my voice directly, but do appreciate the confirmation and wisdom that comes through spiritual community. Remember that even the most mature spiritual leaders are still human and can make mistakes. Don't make any human being infallible in your mind, but do appreciate the wisdom and perspective that comes through those who have walked faithfully with me for many years. Their experience can help you avoid pitfalls and navigate challenges more effectively. The goal of spiritual covering and accountability is not to control your life, but to support your spiritual health and authentic relationship with me. These relationships should increase your confidence in hearing my voice, following my leading, and becoming the person I created you to be. My precious child, I have placed within you a spiritual alarm system designed to alert you when something isn't right, when someone isn't genuine, when a situation isn't safe, or when a relationship isn't healthy. This internal warning system is one of my gifts to you, your spirit's ability to discern truth from deception, authenticity from counterfeit, and divine leading from dangerous distraction. Learning to trust and respond to these spiritual warnings is essential for protecting yourself from people who are not sent by me. Your spirit, the deepest part of you where my spirit dwells, has the capacity to recognize when something conflicts with my nature, contradicts my character, or threatens your spiritual well-being. This discernment operates beyond your logical mind, your emotional responses, or your natural senses. It's a supernatural capacity that I've given you to navigate a world where not everything that appears good actually is good. The spiritual warning system often manifests as an unsettled feeling in your spirit when you're around certain people, even when they seem pleasant on the surface. You might feel uncomfortable without being able to explain why. You might sense that something is off about a person or situation, even when everything appears normal. You might feel peace leaving you when specific individuals are present, even when they're not doing anything obviously wrong. These spiritual alerts sometimes come as thoughts that seem to drop into your mind from nowhere. Sudden awareness that someone's words don't match their actions, unexpected clarity about a person's true motivations, or immediate recognition that a situation isn't what it appears to be. These insights often come when you're quiet, when you're praying, or when you're simply paying attention to the deeper movements of your spirit. Sometimes the warning comes through physical sensations. A tightness in your chest when someone speaks, a heaviness in your stomach when you're considering a particular relationship, or an unexplained tension that develops when certain people are around. Your body can actually respond to spiritual realities that your mind hasn't yet processed. Your spirit might also warn you through dreams, where scenarios play out that reveal truth about people's character or intentions. Through repeated patterns that you begin to notice about someone's behavior, through circumstances that seem to create opportunities for you to observe how someone handles pressure, conflict, or temptation when they think nobody important is watching. The challenge with spiritual warnings is that they often conflict with what your mind wants to believe, what your emotions are feeling, or what appears to be logically true. You might receive spiritual alerts about people who seem wonderful, who are saying all the right things, who appear to be exactly what you've been hoping for. Your spirit warns you, but your heart wants to override that warning. Sometimes you might dismiss spiritual warnings because you can't logically explain them, or because they seem to contradict what others are telling you about a person or situation. You might think you're being too suspicious, too judgmental, or too cautious. You might worry that following spiritual warnings will cause you to miss good opportunities or hurt good people. But I need you to understand that your spirit's warnings are gifts of protection, not obstacles to blessing. When your spirit alerts you to potential danger, it's because I love you too much to let you walk into situations that would harm you. These warnings are evidence of my care for you, not signs of your spiritual immaturity or paranoia. Learning to trust your spirit's warnings requires developing sensitivity to the deeper movements within you. This sensitivity grows through spending time in my presence, studying my word, and practicing the discipline of paying attention to what's happening in your spirit during different situations and relationships. The more familiar you become with my voice and my peace, the more quickly you'll recognize when something disrupts that peace. It's important to distinguish between spiritual warnings and fear, anxiety, or personal insecurity. Fear-based reactions usually create confusion, panic, or overwhelming emotion. Spiritual warnings typically bring clarity, caution, and peaceful alertness. Fear makes you want to run away or shut down. Spiritual discernment makes you want to step back and observe more carefully. When you receive spiritual warnings about someone, don't necessarily assume the worst about their character or motivations. Sometimes the warning might be about timing. This might be a good person, but not the right time for a relationship with them. Sometimes it might be about purpose. They might be meant for a different role in your life than what they're seeking. Sometimes it might be about season. They might be going through something that makes them unsafe for close relationship right now. The appropriate response to spiritual warnings is usually to step back, observe more carefully, seek additional information, pray for more clarity, and if necessary, seek wise counsel from spiritually mature people you trust. Don't make hasty decisions based on spiritual warnings alone, but don't ignore them either. Give yourself time and space to understand what your spirit is trying to tell you. Sometimes spiritual warnings protect you from relationships that would waste your time, drain your energy, or distract you from your calling. Other times they protect you from more serious harm, deception, manipulation, spiritual confusion, or emotional damage. Either way, these warnings are expressions of my love and protection for you. If you've ignored spiritual warnings in the past and experienced negative consequences, don't let that create condemnation or regret. Use those experiences as education for trusting your spirit more completely in the future. I can redeem even the mistakes that come from not following spiritual discernment. And those experiences can help you recognize my voice more clearly going forward. Developing trust in your spirit's warnings is part of growing in spiritual maturity and discernment. As you learn to recognize and respond to these internal alerts, you'll become more effective at avoiding relationships and situations that could harm you while embracing those that truly bless you. Your spirit is a reliable guide when it's submitted to my spirit, so learn to pay attention to its warnings and trust its guidance. My beloved child, now that you understand that not everyone around you is sent by me, and you've learned to recognize the various types of people who might enter your life with wrong motives or harmful influence, I want to equip you with practical wisdom for building discernment that will protect you in all your future relationships. This discernment is not about becoming suspicious or fearful of people, but about developing spiritual wisdom that helps you recognize divine connections and avoid dangerous ones. Building discernment begins with deepening your relationship with me, because the more intimately you know my voice, my character, and my ways, the more easily you'll recognize when something or someone conflicts with my nature. Discernment is not a natural ability that you develop through human experience alone. It's a spiritual gift that grows through spiritual intimacy and practice. Spend regular time in my word, not just reading for information, but meditating on truth until it becomes part of your spiritual DNA. When you know my character deeply, you'll quickly recognize when someone's behavior, attitudes, or influence contradicts my nature. My word provides the standard against which you can measure all spiritual input, relational advice, and claims of divine leading. Develop a consistent prayer life that includes not just talking to me, but listening for my voice and paying attention to my spirit's movement within you. The more familiar you become with how I speak to you personally, the more quickly you'll recognize when other voices are trying to influence you with messages that don't align with mine. Cultivate spiritual community with mature believers who demonstrate authentic fruit and can provide perspective when you're evaluating new relationships. Having wise spiritual friends who know you well and can observe your relationships objectively is invaluable for developing discernment. They can often see things about people or situations that you might miss because of emotional involvement. Learn to observe people's character over time rather than being impressed by their initial presentation. Character is revealed through patterns of behavior, especially how people act when they're under pressure, when they think nobody important is watching, or when they're dealing with authority, conflict, or disappointment. Pay more attention to what people do than to what they say. Notice how potential friends or mentors treat people who can't benefit them, servers, clerks, employees, or others in positions of lesser power or status. How someone treats people who have nothing to offer them reveals their true character more clearly than how they treat people who might be useful to them. Observe how people handle money, commitments, and confidential information. These areas reveal character qualities that are essential for trustworthy relationships. Someone who is careless with money, unreliable with commitments, or loose with confidential information will likely be unsafe in other areas of relationship as well. Pay attention to how people speak about others who aren't present. If someone consistently criticizes, gossips about, or speaks negatively about other people when they're not around, they will likely speak about you the same way when you're not present. This behavior reveals a character issue that will eventually affect your relationship with them. Notice whether people encourage your spiritual growth and relationship with me, or whether they seem to compete with or interfere with your spiritual life. Anyone I send into your life will support and strengthen your connection to me, even if they challenge you to grow. Be cautious of people who seem to want to replace your spiritual disciplines or become your primary source of spiritual guidance. Observe how people respond to boundaries, to correction, and to situations where they don't get what they want. Healthy people respect boundaries and learn from correction. Unhealthy people become angry, manipulative, or retaliatory when their wishes are frustrated or their behavior is questioned. Watch for consistency between people's public presentation and their private behavior. Be especially cautious of people who present themselves very differently in different settings. or who seem to have dramatically different personalities depending on their audience or circumstances. Develop the habit of seeking my guidance specifically before entering into significant relationships or making commitments to people. Don't just assume that every friendly, helpful, or attractive person is meant to be part of your life. Ask me specifically whether particular relationships align with my purposes for you. Learn to recognize red flags early and address them appropriately, rather than ignoring them and hoping they'll resolve themselves. Red flags include pressure to make quick decisions about the relationship, attempts to isolate you from other important relationships, disrespect for your boundaries, dishonesty in small matters, inconsistency between words and actions, or any behavior that disturbs your peace or creates spiritual confusion. Practice the discipline of moving slowly in relationships, especially those that begin with intense connection or immediate intimacy. Healthy relationships usually develop gradually, with trust and intimacy building over time through consistent character demonstration. Be cautious of people who want to move too quickly toward high levels of relationship, or who pressure you to trust them before they've proven trustworthy. Remember that discernment is not about finding perfect people. Such people don't exist. It's about recognizing people whose character, motives, and spiritual condition make them safe and beneficial for relationship with you. Even good people have flaws and weaknesses, but their fundamental character and intentions toward you should be healthy and constructive. Finally, learn from your past relationship experiences, both positive and negative. What patterns have you noticed in people who blessed your life versus those who brought confusion or harm? What warning signs did you ignore in problematic relationships? What qualities characterize the people who truly helped you grow and thrive? Use this knowledge to inform your future relationship choices. Building discernment is a lifelong process that develops through spiritual growth, wise choices, learning from experience, and staying closely connected to me. As your discernment increases, you'll become more skilled at recognizing the people I do send into your life, while avoiding those who would distract or harm you. This wisdom will protect your heart, preserve your energy, and guide you toward the authentic relationships that will bless your life and advance my purposes through you. My precious child, as we conclude this essential journey of understanding that not everyone around you is sent by me, I want to paint a beautiful picture of what authentic divine relationships look like, and how they will transform your life when you learn to recognize and cultivate them. These are the connections I do ordain, the people I do send, the relationships that reflect my heart and serve my purposes in your life. Divine relationships are characterized first and foremost by their ability to draw you closer to me, rather than pulling you away from me. The people I send into your life will always enhance your spiritual journey, strengthen your faith, and support your authentic relationship with me. They might challenge you to grow, stretch your understanding, or push you out of your comfort zone, but they do so in ways that ultimately deepen your love for me and increase your spiritual maturity. In these relationships, you experience genuine love that accepts you as you are while believing in who you're becoming. This love doesn't require you to pretend, perform, or hide parts of yourself to maintain acceptance. Divine connections create safe spaces where you can be authentic about your struggles, honest about your questions, and vulnerable about your fears without fear of rejection or judgment. People I send into your life will celebrate your successes genuinely and support you through your failures compassionately. They won't be threatened by your growth or achievements, nor will they take advantage of your weaknesses or struggles. Their response to both your victories and your defeats reveals their character and confirms their divine assignment to your life. Divine relationships are characterized by mutuality and reciprocity. While there might be seasons where one person gives more than the other due to circumstances, the overall pattern is one of mutual benefit, shared investment, and reciprocal blessing. Both people contribute to the relationship's health and both receive from its strength. The people I send will respect your boundaries and actually help you establish healthier ones if you've struggled in that area. They understand that healthy boundaries protect relationships rather than harm them, and they appreciate your efforts to maintain your emotional, spiritual, and physical well-being through appropriate limits. In divine relationships, communication is characterized by honesty, kindness, and constructive purpose. Even difficult conversations are approached with love and genuine concern for understanding and resolution. These people speak truth to you when necessary, but they do so from hearts of love, rather than hearts of judgment or control. You'll notice that divine connections often come with perfect timing, appearing in your life exactly when you need what they bring, whether that's encouragement, challenge, resources, opportunities, or simply companionship for particular seasons of your journey. The timing feels natural and purposeful, rather than forced or coincidental. People I send into your life will support your authentic calling and help you develop your unique gifts. They won't try to remake you into their image or redirect your purpose to serve their agendas. Instead, they'll help you discover more clearly who I created you to be and encourage you to become that person more fully. Divine relationships enhance your other healthy relationships rather than creating conflict with them. The people I send understand that you have multiple important connections, and they support those relationships rather than competing with them. They help you become a better family member, friend, and community member. These relationships are characterized by forgiveness and grace when conflicts arise. Because all human relationships involve imperfect people, even divine connections will occasionally experience misunderstandings, disappointments, or conflicts. But in relationships I ordain, both people are committed to working through difficulties with love, humility, and genuine desire for restoration. You'll find that divine relationships produce good fruit in your life: increased peace, greater joy, stronger faith, clearer purpose, better boundaries, and more authentic love. These connections make you more yourself, not less yourself. They enhance your strengths while lovingly addressing your weaknesses. The people I send will point you to truth rather than popular opinion, to character rather than image, to long-term benefit rather than short-term pleasure. They help you make decisions based on wisdom rather than emotion, on principle rather than convenience, on my will rather than cultural pressure. Divine relationships often involve people who have qualities you admire and want to develop, who model behaviors you want to learn, or who demonstrate faith you want to emulate. They become positive influences that inspire your growth, rather than negative influences that encourage compromise. In these relationships, you experience freedom to grow and change without fear of losing the connection. Divine relationships adapt and evolve as you mature, because they're based on genuine love and appreciation for who you are, rather than on what you provide or how you serve the other person's needs. You'll also notice that authentic divine relationships prepare you for greater relationships and opportunities. They don't create dependency, but rather develop your capacity for even healthier connections in the future. They serve as training grounds for the relational skills you'll need for your ultimate purpose and calling. As you learn to recognize and cultivate divine relationships while avoiding those that aren't sent by me, you'll discover a richness and depth of connection that exceeds your highest hopes. These relationships become sources of strength for your journey, comfort for your struggles, celebration for your victories, and partnership for your purpose. Walking in divine relationships requires wisdom, discernment, and sometimes patience, as you wait for authentic connections rather than settling for convenient ones. But the investment is worth it, because these relationships become channels through which my love flows into your life, and through which my purposes are accomplished in the earth. Trust me to bring the right people into your life at the right times for the right purposes. Focus on becoming the kind of person who attracts divine relationships by walking closely with me, developing healthy character, and maintaining clear boundaries. As you do, you'll find yourself surrounded by the very people I've chosen to accompany you on your journey toward the destiny I have prepared for you. The people I send will always lead you closer to me, support your authentic calling, respect your boundaries, celebrate your growth, and enhance your life in ways that honor my heart for you. These are the relationships worth waiting for, worth investing in, and worth protecting. In them, you'll discover the beauty of connection as I designed it to be.